I was standing in a white dress, holding a bouquet of white roses, and 300 guests were staring at me. The music had already played. The doors were already open. Everyone was waiting for the groom to walk in. He never came. Not 5 minutes late. Not an hour late. He never came at all. That day, I didn't just lose a fiancé. I lost my dignity in front of everyone I had ever known. But this story isn't about the day I was left at the altar. This story is about what happened 2 years later, the day I walked into his new wedding, sat in the front row, and calmly destroyed everything he had built without saying a single unkind word. If you love stories about betrayal, karma, and quiet revenge, stay until the end, because what I did that day still gives me chills. My name doesn't matter for this story. Let's just say I was an ordinary woman with an ordinary dream, to fall in love, get married, and build a simple, happy life. I met him, I'll call him Daniel, when I was 24 years old. He was charming, confident, and said all the right things at all the right times. Looking back now, I understand that people who say the right things too perfectly are often hiding something. We dated for 2 years. He proposed at a beach during sunset, and I cried happy tears because I truly believed I had found my person. For the next year, we planned our wedding together. I picked out the flowers. I tried on more wedding dresses than I can count until I found the one. My mother cried when she saw me in it. My father said I looked just like my grandmother on her wedding day. Everything felt perfect. Until the wedding day itself. I remember waking up that morning feeling like the luckiest woman alive. My bridesmaids curled my hair. My mother helped me put on my earrings. I looked in the mirror and thought, this is the happiest day of my life. 2 hours later, I was standing at the altar, and the pastor kept looking at his watch. 15 minutes passed. Then 30. Then a full hour. My phone started buzzing. It was Daniel's best man. He simply said he's not coming. I'm so sorry. I remember the room spinning. I remember 300 pairs of eyes on me, and I remember trying to smile so no one would see how badly I was breaking inside. I walked out of that church in my wedding dress, past every guest, past every whisper, and I did not cry until I got home. For weeks, I didn't understand what had happened. Daniel didn't answer my calls. He didn't send a message. It was as if he had disappeared from the face of the earth. 2 weeks later, I found out the truth from a mutual friend. Daniel had been secretly seeing another woman for the last 6 months of our engagement. Her name was Vanessa. She came from a wealthy family, and apparently, on the morning of our wedding, Daniel called her instead of me and said he couldn't go through with marrying someone he didn't truly love. He left me standing at the altar to run to another woman. I felt humiliated beyond words. Everyone in our small town knew what had happened. I couldn't go to the grocery store without someone whispering behind my back. I couldn't attend a family event without someone asking, so, what really happened with Daniel? For months, I stayed inside. I stopped answering calls. I stopped going out with friends. I became someone I didn't recognize, quiet, broken, and ashamed of something that wasn't even my fault. But somewhere in the middle of that darkness, something shifted inside me. I remember sitting alone one night, looking at my wedding dress still hanging in my closet, and instead of crying, I felt something else. Anger. Not the loud, explosive kind of anger, the quiet, patient kind. The kind that doesn't scream. The kind that plans. I decided that day I would rebuild myself completely. Not for revenge. Not yet. Just for me. I started going to the gym. I picked up an old hobby, photography, that I had abandoned years earlier for wedding planning. I applied for promotion at work that I had been too scared to ask for before. I reconnected with old friends I had pushed away out of embarrassment. Slowly, month by month, I became someone stronger than the woman who had been left at that altar. And through all of this rebuilding, I never once tried to contact Daniel. I let him disappear from my life completely. Until, 2 years later, fate brought us back together in the most unexpected way. 2 years after my wedding day disaster, I had built a life I was proud of. I had a job I loved, a small apartment I had decorated myself, and for the first time in a long while, genuine peace. Then one afternoon, I received a wedding invitation. It was from a cousin of mine, someone Daniel's new family happened to know through business connections in our small town. The invitation wasn't for Daniel's wedding directly. It was for a mutual family friend's daughter's wedding at the same elegant venue where, by strange coincidence, Daniel's wedding to Vanessa was scheduled to take place exactly 1 week later, at the very same hall. While helping set up flowers for my cousin's friend's wedding as a favor, I overheard the wedding coordinator mention the name Vanessa and next week's ceremony. My heart sank as I realized whose wedding was happening in that very same hall, just days later. At first, I felt the old wound reopen. But then something interesting happened. The wedding coordinator, not knowing my connection to any of this, casually mentioned that the couple next week, Daniel and Vanessa, were having serious vendor issues because they had refused to pay a deposit dispute with the original catering company and were scrambling to find a replacement caterer just days before the big event. That's when I remembered something important. I was now good friends with the owner of one of the most respected catering companies in our city. I had helped her with photography for her business 2 years earlier, free of charge, back when I was rebuilding my life and looking for any purpose I could find. I want to be clear about something here. I did not lie. I did not sabotage anything illegally. I did not spread false information. What I did was simply share the truth at the right time to the right people. I told my friend, the caterer, I heard the groom in your upcoming inquiry has a history of breaking commitments and leaving people last minute without warning. You should ask for full payment up front before agreeing to anything. It was true. It was fair advice for any business owner. She thanked me and adjusted her contract terms accordingly. When Daniel and Vanessa tried to negotiate a lower price with a partial deposit, expecting the same easy treatment Daniel was probably used to charming his way into, my friend firmly refused. They panicked, with only days left before the wedding. But that wasn't the only piece of truth I ended up sharing. At the earlier wedding I attended that same week, I ran into Vanessa's aunt, who had no idea I had any connection to Daniel at all. She started making polite small talk, mentioning how excited the family was for Vanessa's big day. Then she asked innocently, "Have you heard anything about the groom's family? We don't know them very well yet." I simply told her the truth, calmly, and without any bitterness in my voice. I actually used to know Daniel a few years back. He was engaged before. He left his fiancée at the altar, on the wedding day itself, without any explanation. I said nothing more. I didn't need to. Word travels fast in close family circles, especially before a wedding. Within days, Vanessa's parents, understandably concerned about their daughter's future, began asking Daniel serious questions about his past. They wanted to understand why a man would abandon someone at the altar with zero warning, and whether their daughter could trust that this wouldn't happen to her one day too. Daniel, caught off guard and unprepared, apparently gave inconsistent answers. In one conversation he said he wasn't ready back then. In another, he blamed his ex-fiancée, meaning me, for things that were never true. Vanessa's family started noticing the inconsistencies. Meanwhile, the catering crisis grew worse. With no company willing to take the booking on short notice at a fair price, the couple were forced to scramble for a mediocre replacement just days before their wedding, creating even more stress and tension between them. Then came the moment I hadn't planned for, but that unfolded naturally because of everything already in motion. Vanessa, feeling anxious and confused by her family's sudden concerns, reached out directly to me. She had heard my name mentioned and wanted to hear the truth from the person who had actually lived through it. I met with her, calmly, honestly, without an ounce of manipulation. I told her exactly what happened on my wedding day, the full hour of standing at that altar, the humiliation in front of 300 guests, and the silence that followed for weeks afterward. I did not tell her not to marry him. That was never my decision to make. I simply told her the truth and let her decide for herself. A few days later, I heard that Vanessa postponed the wedding indefinitely. Not canceled completely at first, postponed, to take time to think things through. The postponement, combined with the catering disaster and the family's growing doubts, put a massive strain on their relationship. Within 2 months, I heard through mutual acquaintances that Vanessa had ended the engagement completely, telling close friends she couldn't build a marriage on top of someone else's unhealed pain. I never lied. I never manipulated anyone into a decision. I simply stopped protecting a secret that was never mine to protect in the first place, and I let the truth do what truth always does eventually. It found its way to the people who deserve to know it. Daniel's second engagement collapsed, almost exactly 2 years after he had destroyed my wedding day. I want to be completely honest with you about something. For a moment, when I heard the engagement had ended, I expected to feel triumphant. I expected fireworks of satisfaction inside my chest. But that's not what I felt. What I actually felt was peace. Not because Daniel was suffering, but because I finally understood something important. I never needed to destroy him to heal. I only needed to stop hiding the truth about what he had done to me. The truth was never a weapon I built. It was simply something I had been carrying quietly out of shame for far too long. The moment I stopped feeling ashamed of what happened to me and started speaking honestly about it, everything shifted on its own. I didn't ruin Daniel's marriage out of hatred. I simply stopped protecting the image of a man who never protected my heart. Sometimes, the most powerful revenge isn't loud. It isn't dramatic. It's simply living your truth so openly and so confidently that the people who hurt you can no longer hide behind their lies. Today, I'm in a healthy relationship with someone who has never once made me question my worth. I run my own small photography business. I speak to young women in my community about rebuilding confidence after heartbreak. As for Daniel, I heard he moved to another city. I don't know what happened to him after that, and honestly, for the first time in years, I don't need to know. My story was never really about him. It was about me finding my way back to myself. If you've ever been betrayed, abandoned, or humiliated by someone who claimed to love you, I want you to remember this. Your healing does not depend on their punishment. Your peace does not need their downfall to be complete. But if the truth naturally finds its way to the people who deserve to hear it, let it. You don't have to protect the people who never protected you. So that's my story. How I was left at the altar in front of everyone I knew, and how, 2 years later, the truth I finally stopped hiding quietly unraveled the very marriage that was built on top of my pain. It's not a story about revenge. It's a story about honesty, healing, and learning to stand up for yourself, even when it's hard. If this story touched your heart, remember, no matter how badly someone breaks you, you always have the power to rebuild yourself into someone even stronger. If you enjoyed this video, please hit subscribe for more real-life stories like this one, and let me know in the comments, have you ever had to choose between staying silent or telling the truth? I'd love to hear your story too. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.